Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi and today we are taking a look at the new Hermes eye collection. I picked up quite a few things here. So I picked up two of the new quads and they do have kind of a circle square situation going on, which I personally don't love, but I also picked up one of the new mascaras. So they have mascaras in your classic brown and black, but they also have colors. So I picked up the purple one. They have green, blue. Very excited to see the different colors. And then I wasn't going to get these originally, so I didn't order these with my first order, but I ended up getting the brushes. So I had a lot of requests from people wanting to see these. So, I decided, let's go ahead and try them out. So I picked up all of the eye brushes in the collection. And let's start off with swatches of the quads, and then we'll talk about all of the products. The Hermes quads come in the same packaging as the blushes, same size and everything. They do come with this little brush here as well. So they come in this little pouch. And you can see we do have our pretty, tricolor that we have with all of the Hermes products. And this is just a little synthetic brush here that goes with it. Now, I have to say, I like the fact that it has a brush, considering the price point, it's kind of nice. However, I don't love that there's nowhere to put it unless you keep everything in this little bag, because I do not store mine in little bags. So although I don't really want to have space taken up on the inside of the palette to put this, I do think it might have been nice, because these pans are definitely not going all the way down to the bottom, if there was some way to insert it in the actual, side of the compact or something, you could pull it out. I don't know, something like that. But, if they're going to include a brush, I feel like it should have been built into the package in some way, or lower the price and leave out the brush. My other complaint with the brush here is just that, just having this one brush for these quads, you can't really do a complete eye look with these. You can see this is more, it's kind of like a long shader style. So you don't have anything to work with in the crease or for blending. This is really more for laying down of color, which you could also use your fingers for. So I feel like if they were going to only give one brush, something more like a crease brush probably would have been more beneficial, and then you could potentially use your fingers to finish a look. So just kind of my thoughts on that. But let's take a look at the two quads that I picked up. So this one here is number 2, Ombre Vegetal. And we have this kind of steel gray shade here. And this is matte, but it's pretty much just a straight up matte. And honestly, I can see a little bit of sparkle in mine. I'm not sure if it's just dust that has gotten through, because this does get a little dusty. You get some kick up with this, or if there's intended to be a little bit of sparkle, but you don't really see it on the eyes. You don't really see it too much at all. And then this deeper gray, I'm just going to go ahead and put this one right here. Just so you can see the two grays kind of near each other. But you can see this is going to be more of a blue gray. And this has, it's obviously a lot deeper, but it's more of a deep blue gray. Whereas this is going to be a little bit more of a neutral steel gray. Next, we have this sparkle shade here. And you can see when you swatch that, you can get kind of a creamy texture. You can build that up and get more of a foiled look. But if you use a brush to apply this shade, like a shader style brush or the brush that it comes with, and you'll see this in the demo, it really doesn't apply so thickly. It doesn't really give you that metallic finish. It's really going to give you more of a glitter, sparkle, topper type effect with the brush. And if you want this more metallic finish, you either have to go in with additional layers, or you are going to need to use your fingers for that, or some sort of foam tip applicator. And then we have this bright green here, and this is also going to be matte. And I have to say, this green, it's beautiful, beautiful, kind of teal jade green here. Really like this shade in particular, and I really like pairing the shimmer with it. So these are the 4 shades here. And let's look at the other quad. Now the other one I picked up is our more classic color story. There's no bright pops of color in this one. This is number 5, Ombre Fume. And our first shade here is going to be kind of a matte soft brown. And you can see that this is going to be a little warm. And then we're going to go to, next here is this. This is our third shade in the quad, but you can see this is also going to be a brown. It's a little bit cooler. This one actually has a bit more of a satin finish. I would have to say none of these are a strong satin though. So like none of the shades in either of the quads, but this one does have a bit of a satin sheen to it and slightly cooler in tone. There's a little bit more gray in there. The second shade here is going to be another one like this gold shade here. Again, you can get more of that topper sparkle effect, or you can build it up to become more metallic. This one's going to be silver. And then our last shade here is another matte shade. And this is black. You can see it's kind of a soft black. You can build this up to get it a little bit deeper, but it is going to be kind of a soft black. And these are the 2 quads that I picked up. And I also picked up one of the mascaras. And you can see we do have kind of the same packaging as the classic lipsticks, just elongated. I picked up shade number 6, Violet Indigo. And you can see we do have a thinner wand here, kind of a skinny wand. And here is the shade Violet Indigo. And it has a nice purple. So we'll talk about this when we go over demos and details, but I love the fact that they've introduced some color mascaras, but yet they still have your classics for those who are not interested in those. And let's take a quick look at these brushes here. And we have this one here, which is like your brow brush, your spiral brush. This can be used for brows or lashes. We have a crease brush, a shader style brush, and an angled liner. So we'll look at each of these separately after we go through demos and details with just a few comparisons, those that I found that were closest to those shapes. So let's go through these products in a little bit more detail. The Ombre de Hermes eyeshadow quads have a 1-year shelf life. They have 3 grams of product and they are made in Italy. As I mentioned, we have the exact same packaging as the blushes. And you know, the blushes actually have 6 grams of product. So I do feel like the way that they organize these gives you a lot of wasted space in these quads. So we don't have that much product. And I feel like that's definitely a shame. So we do have a magnetic closure here. And by the way, if you're not familiar with the blush packaging, it is plastic on the outside. Now, according to Hermes, it says 6 color palettes offer various avenues of expression for the eyes, creating a natural, intense, or sophisticated look. Each quartet is composed of a graduated trio of powders complemented by a 4th, bold and unexpected shade. All can be used individually or combined to create a subtle, seamless blend of shadows. And again, as I mentioned, we do have the applicator brush that comes with this as well inside the pouch, which has a drawstring. And according to Hermes, the eyeshadow quartets are composed of 98% natural ingredients. The powder contains silky emollients and oils, ensuring effortless application and a long-lasting natural finish. The eyeshadow's soft and light texture can be easily blended using a finger or brush, allowing you to achieve your desired level of intensity. In each palette, the various finishes draw inspiration from the silk métier. The matte finish evokes the essence of silk chiffon, the satin finish mirrors the allure of silk twill, and the shimmering finish is reminiscent of silk lame. And these are refillable. You can buy the refills to go into this packaging. And I haven't actually tried removing one of these yet, but if they're like the blushes, those were glued in. So let's just check. So unfortunately, the pan is not coming out easily like something magnetic would be. So I do think that they are glued in, and it's going to take a little bit of pressure to remove this from the pan. Now, as for my thoughts on the actual quads and the formulas, I would have to say the matte shades, which again make up the majority of the shades in these two quartets, they're okay. They're kind of your traditional matte. They do go on smoothly. They blend out okay. They're a bit powdery in finish, so you do get some kick up in the pan with all of the shades. So, you do get, you have to be a little careful. I did get some of the green powder mixed into my shimmer at first, had to kind of blow that away. So just something to note, you can get a bit of kick up with these. The mattes though, I think they're okay. They're kind of like your traditional classic matte, but there's nothing special about them. And I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity here. The satin, again, we only have that one satin, the one true satin in the quad number 5, Ombre Fumé, and that's that third shade there. I do like the satin. I think it is a really nice, pretty shade. In particular, the satin finish, however, is pretty subtle for satin, which is totally fine, but I would have really liked to see more satins. I feel like it would have been nice if each of the quads had one satin to kind of, I would have loved to see the first gray in the green quad be a satin formula instead. And it has a little bit of sparkle in it, but it's really not a satin finish per se. So if that is intended to be a satin, they kind of miss the mark on that. It's definitely much more of a flat matte in appearance. The shimmer shades, I think they're okay. They are pretty firm in the pan. And as I mentioned, if you're using a brush to apply them, and you can see that in the demos, when you put them on with the brush, whether it's the one that comes with it or a different brush, you're really going to get more of a sparkle topper effect. It really shears out and you're getting more of the glitter that adheres to the lid. But if you want to pile that on or go in with multiple layers, you can get more of a foiled or metallic look to the shimmer shades. So I think that they are definitely a necessary component of these quads. They help transform the shades a little bit. They liven up the mattes a little. So I do really like the fact that they were included. Formula wise though, I feel like they are just okay. Honestly, that's how I feel about all of the formulas here. They're just okay. And as you can see in the wear tests, they go on nicely. They look nice on the lids. I feel like the look held up pretty well throughout the day. But if you have oilier lids than I do, I would say you're probably going to get about 6 hours of crease-free wear. And if you are, my eyelids are typically more like normal or balanced. So I can get 8 hours, but you could see between like the 8 and the 9 hour mark how much the creasing actually happened. And it wasn't like terrible creasing, like, where I'm actually seeing all the way through to my lid, but you could definitely see migration of the pigments. The first thing I noticed was that the shimmer shade was kind of falling down closer to the lash line. So that kind of shifted. And then as time went on, I could start seeing like an actual crease developed in the matte shades below that. And, I'm sure that's because of the emollient oils and so forth that they have in here, making it comfortable on the eyes. But I feel like for that price point, we shouldn't see any creasing at all. And I've tested it with and without a primer. So this is just something that, obviously the primer helps, but it is something that's going to happen. So if you have oily lids in particular, I would think that this would happen a bit faster. So in summation then, for the eyeshadow quads, I feel like they are okay. They're definitely not a bad product per se, but they're not a great product. So for this price point, from my personal opinion, at this price point, they missed the mark. So I feel like they are not worth it at this price point. So if they had been like a drugstore makeup item and you got this level of quality, not a problem. There's definitely nothing wrong with this. Even if they have been like a $40 quad, I'd be okay with that. But for this price point, I do feel like the formulas are lacking in innovation and just, performance. So I feel like they are not worth it. Now, as we're looking at these swatches, I'm also showing you kind of clips of the mascara. And although I've only been wearing this for a few days now, I'm really loving the mascara. So it's not really giving me a ton of volume or length. It's giving me a little bit of length here, but it's nothing like extravagant. But I love having the color options. I think this purple is a really great shade, and it's holding up really well throughout the day. Even as I'm touching my eyes for, the wear test and so forth, you could see that I still wasn't getting any flaking or smudging from the mascara. So I feel like that was definitely a pro there. And I think that overall the mascara is a nice formula. So I would pick up the mascaras again. By the way, the eyeshadow quads retail for $108 US with the full quad, not the refill, and the mascara retails for $68 US. So it's definitely a pricey mascara. Now we have 6 shades in the mascara, just like the eyeshadow quads, and according to Hermes, it says the revitalizing care mascara intensifies and emphasizes the gaze with lash to lash volume. Its innovative wand ensures easy application and precise lash definition. Now, personally, I don't notice much volume here, but I do like this wand. I think it's really easy to use, and it doesn't make my lashes clump together, which is something that I personally don't like on myself. A few more details from Hermes. It says it's composed of 97% natural ingredients. The mascara's gentle formula is suitable for all eyes, including sensitive. It contains millet seed extract known for its protective and lengthening properties, nourishing shea butter and moringa butter. As a result, the lashes appear denser and thicker. The light texture of the Revitalizing Care Mascara, designed for lash-to-lash volume, glides seamlessly along each lash from root to tip, coating them individually for precise application. Its weightless formula has a long-lasting result that does not flake or transfer to the eyelid. Now, just a few details again for this. This is going to be made in Italy. We have 5 milliliters of product. And, I have to say, I think the mascara is a really nice product. So that is definitely something that I would purchase again. And as you can see, we are looking at the eye brushes during some of these demos as well. So when I first received the quads, at that point, I hadn't received my eye brushes yet, but they did come the following day. So let's take a look at these brushes, and we'll talk about each of these with some comparisons as well. Now, we're going to start off with the crease brush. Now, our crease brush is called the L'Estamper Blending Brush, and I apologize if my pronunciation there isn't fantastic, but it retails for $96 US. I actually ended up with a coupon for Saks, a 20% off coupon for leaving some things in my cart. So I purchased these on sale, and I would definitely recommend, if you are looking at getting these, do try to get them on sale. Now, this crease brush or blending brush, it has, according to Hermes, ultra soft natural goat hair fibers, which are hand assembled by a French brush maker to ensure seamless application for the eyes. This particular brush is intended to blend and soften the color of the eyeshadows. You can also use this for face powders, for targeted precision on the face. And the 3 colors on here, this one is going to give us kind of our bright cobalt blue. Now, we'll talk more about my thoughts on each of the brushes when we go through some comparisons, but just a quick overview. We also have a shader brush, and this is the L'Ombre shader brush, which is also $96 US. And according to Hermes, with this one, we have a blend of high quality synthetic and natural goat hair fibers. Again, it is hand assembled by a French brush maker. And according to Hermes, it has a rounded tip, ideal for applying color to the entire lid in a sweeping motion, gradually layering to enhance the color's intensity. Its fine tip is perfect for targeted application to the outer corner of the eye or along the lower and upper lashes. And, again, I really like this shader brush. I think the shader brush is, it's a nice one. So moving on, we have an angled liner brush called Le Tresseur, and this is $84 US. And according to Hermes, the angled tip is ideal for tracing a clean line along the base of the lashes with any of the eyeshadow finishes. It can also be used to fill in the eyebrows or define the contour of the lips. And this one is ultra soft natural goat hair. So far we just have the synthetic in the shader brush. And then our last brush is the La Brasse or La Brosse. And this one here is going to be your brow brush. And this is intended to separate the lashes or shape and define the brow line, and shape and define the brow line. So let's move on, take a look at each of these brushes individually and some comparisons as well. So we're going to start off here with this brush, which is our blending brush. And you can see that we have a long handle. We've got kind of this cobalt blue here. We have white, we have black. Again, it is made in France. This one has goat hair. And I have to say, I find this one to be a little scratchy. So when I'm using it on my hand, it feels fine. It doesn't feel ultra soft or anything, but I don't notice anything. But when I am using it in the crease, I do feel that some of the longer hairs, they're a bit stiffer. So they feel a little scratchy on my lids. So if you have sensitive skin on your eyes, I mean, everybody does, but if they are ultra sensitive, this might be too scratchy for you. My eyes are a little bit more sensitive just from the sheer quantity of eye swatches and things that I've been doing the last few weeks. So my skin is a little bit more sensitive than usual. So I think on a regular basis, this would be totally fine for me. But with my eyes being a little bit more sensitive right now, it's a little bit too harsh. But I did want to take a look at a few comparisons. So this is the Rephr 15, and this you can see is the longer Rephr handle here. So there is a difference in our tip. You can see that the Hermes is going to be completely rounded, whereas our 15 has a bit of a taper. So we get a bit more of a pyramidal shape there. As for the diameter, they're going to be about the same, but the Rephr 15 is ever so slightly bigger. The length of the bristles is about the same. So these are going to be pretty close to the same size brush. And then we have the Sonia G Classic Crease from the Sky series. And this is our handle length difference. So you can see the Hermes is definitely larger. Again, we're going to have about the same size diameter. And this one is actually going to be much more similar in shape as well. We also have kind of that rounded look. Now, the diameter, it's almost exactly the same, but I do think the Hermes is ever so slightly larger. And these hairs, the hair quality on the Hermes, it's definitely a lower grade quality than the Sonia G, which is significantly softer. Because this is softer, it also kind of will, kind of flow out a bit more, whereas the Hermes stays, the hair fibers stay a little bit more strict to their structure. They're gonna, you don't have as much flare out with the bristles. So just something to note there, but the size and the shape are pretty much equivalent with these two brushes. So those were my best matches for the crease brush. Overall, the crease brush is the one that I like the least out of these new eye brushes. Do I recommend it? Personally, I would buy these on sale if you're interested in buying them. I love the handles, but if you're looking for like a great blending brush, honestly, go with less expensive brushes like Sonia G or Rephr. This is, it's nice. It looks great on your vanity. So if you are purchasing it, I would purchase it for those particular reasons. But quality wise, I think you can get better quality for a lower price point. I would definitely recommend, either the Sonia G or the Rephr over the Hermes blending brush, but it is really pretty. And moving on to our shader brush, you can see we have more of an aqua shade here on the handle. And this is a blend of goat and synthetic fibers. It's very soft. This is a very soft brush. And I actually have to say I really like this one. I think it is soft, it's easy to use, it's a great size and shape. And I do have a couple comparisons. So my Sonia G comparison, and again, this is our handle length difference. This one here is the Builder from the Lotus set. And you can see that the length of the bristles are about the same. The Hermes is a little bit more rounded, whereas the Sonia G is a bit more square. Our Sonia G is also going to be just a little bit wider here as well. So this is a little bit of a thicker brush. But we do have, again, both of them are very soft. I feel like the Hermes actually feels ever so slightly softer, probably due to the synthetic fibers being mixed in there. But, you know, I feel like the shapes on these are pretty similar. Next up, I also wanted to look at this Hakuhodo brush. And again, handle length differences. This is the B004G. You can see that the B004G has slightly longer bristles. We do have a rounded shape to it. But again, we have just a little bit more arch in the Hermes. It's slightly more rounded versus their Hermes. Even if you were to like bring this down so they were the same length of bristles, just this curvature is just a little bit tighter in the Hermes. The width here, the Hakuhodo is ever so slightly thicker, not as thick as the Sonia G though. So you can see that that is going to be a little thicker on the Sonia G. And then one more comparison, or rather two more comparisons, but these are the rougher. We have the 02 and the 02 Mini. I wanted to put both of these up here because you can see that the Hermes is kind of in the middle between those size-wise. And again, here's our handle length difference, but you can see that the 02, it is a little bit wider, a little thicker. We do have a very similar shape, but again, our Hermes is going to be more rounded. And you can see that the Hermes is slightly more narrow than the 02. Now, the Mini, however, is going to be a little bit smaller. You can see it is going to be a little bit thinner, but these are definitely the closest in the width here. And yeah, again, the curvature is still going to be, you know, this is ever so slightly more square, but it's similar. Now, the difference is just for the size, our size ratio is a little different because our length of the bristles is almost the same. The Mini 2 is a little bit shorter, but considering our size difference in the width of the ferrule here, you know, the ratio is a little different. Now, I also wanted to mention real quickly that the Hermes brushes did come with a little, I think this is like a vegan leather type of cover to go over the bristles. So just something to note that it does come with that. And overall, I would have to say, I think this is a really nice brush. Is it worth $96? Again, I've just shown you some other options that are similar that are priced less. So I would have to say that, you know, again, just like the blending brush, I would recommend getting this on sale. You're still getting some of that money is definitely just going to the handle and the color story. But I do think that this is a really nice brush. So I would recommend this one over the blending brush from Hermes. I think it is a very nice brush, works very well. It's very soft, easy to use. And the bonus is that it's very aesthetically pleasing, but it definitely has a high price tag. Next, we have the liner brush, the Tracer, and this is $84 US. So just to show you the blue differences, you can see that the blending brush has cobalt. This is more of a French blue. And this is Go Hair, and I have to say it's very soft. A lot of times when we see these angled brushes, they're almost always synthetic. And, you know, they're stiff. You can see that this really blends and moves well, and it's very thin. So it gives you a very precise line, which kind of surprised me. I actually think this is a really great brush too. So this one is really nice. And, you know, you really get a lot of precision with this, but it's very soft. It's not stiff. So let's look at just, I don't have too many comparisons, but just a few. This is the Linda Hallberg 333. You can see that this is longer. This is synthetic. This one is also soft, easy to use, but I do want to show you the difference in the width here. So you can see that the Hermes is significantly thinner compared to the Linda Hallberg. So you're going to get a much thinner line. I mean, this is, you can really get a super thin line with this. I'll show you that in just a second. And then the other one I wanted to share with you, this is a Smith 302. And you can see this is kind of a curved angle brush. We have a little bit of a curvature at the front and the end here. And this is also going to be significantly thicker. and longer. So this is actually kind of unique. Let me just show you how thin of a line you can get with this. Just to really be able to see it, I'm just going to dampen my brush so that we can make sure that the line is, easy to see. All right, I'm just going to take the black shadow here, just get a little bit of that. All right, and oops. So hopefully you can see that. You can see how thin that can be. Obviously, I used too much pressure with the first line, but you can see how thin you can go with these. So I think this is a really nice brush. And again, you can use this for brows, you could use it for lips, and you can use it for eyeliner. So I think I'll probably use this mostly for eyeliner, but I'm glad to know I can use it for the other functions as well. And, even being goat hair, sometimes using it with a cream product isn't always the best idea, but this is intended for use that way. And I don't think it's going to mess up this brush. So overall, I'd have to say that this is a really nice angled liner brush. I would recommend this one the same way I would recommend the shader brush. And then last up, we have this one here, the La Brosse. And we have yellow here. And this is great on the brows. It's also great on the lashes. And honestly, I would probably just go ahead and I'm going to use this both ways most of the time, but I'm probably going to use this primarily for my lashes. A lot of times after I put on mascara, I use a metal lash comb to kind of separate my lashes, but I used to always just use like a clean mascara wand, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and go back to using this. It does seem to make it a little fluffier looking, which I've been enjoying. And the only reason I'm probably not going to use it for brows too much is because a lot of my brow products already have brushes embedded in them. Like this is the Gucci pencil. And I think that this is actually a pretty nice brush as well. You can see this is a little bit thicker. And they're actually pretty comparable though. This is just a little bit bigger overall and we don't have as much of a taper, but that would be a pretty close comparison there. But I do think this is a nice brush. It's kind of an extra, nice to have kind of brush. Definitely not a necessity, but yeah, I like this one. So overall, my thoughts on the Hermes collection. I think this is a nice luxury collection. The mascara and the brushes, I think particularly the shader brush and the liner brush, those are the standouts for me in this collection. The eyeshadow quads, I do really like the colors, but I just think that the formula is not fantastic. Now, before we finish up, let's go ahead and do some comparisons with those eyeshadows. All right, so just a few comparisons, but the green first made me think of this Prada palette. So this is the Prada Dimensions in number 4. And one of the things I think Prada did a great job on is they have fantastic, unique finishes. So this is their matte green. You can see that the color is very similar. The Hermes is going to be a little bit more pigmented. It's a little bit deeper. This formula, however, is a bit more velvety and, I think it feels a little more comfortable. The Hermes feels a little bit drier. I also went to look at this Rabanne quad, and this is their handbag palette in Paradise Lost Then Found. And we do not have a similar green here, but I wanted to just kind of show you this color story with it. You can see that we have kind of a similar gold shade. This is going to be a bit more peachy gold versus this is more of a whiter gold. We have this deep green, kind of like a deep forest green. And then this is our last shade here. So you can see the color story is going to be pretty different. I do like how Hermes included some grays, but I do, as I mentioned, I would have preferred to see like a stronger satin finish with this first shade here. And yeah, but overall, I think the Prada green is the closest match. I mean, there's no way I'm going to find anything closer. These other shades in here, though, are very different. I just want to swatch this pink one right next to the green because I think those two really work so nicely together. And again, I just think, honestly, Prada just did a better job on their eyeshadow launch than Hermes. Now, I wanted to take a look at this other Prada palette just to swatch kind of these browns. We're going to leave the purple out. But this one here is going to be number 1. Palette number 1. So I'm going to put these over here on the side because this first brown really isn't going to go with anything on here. But this brown here, this second shade, the big triangular shade, I wanted to see how that compared. You can see this is going to be a little bit warmer in tone, more clay-like. And then we have kind of this golden shimmer shade here. And I wanted to see how that one compared up. That you can see it's more metallic. It's a little bit deeper and it has more of a peachy gold vibe to it as well. More of like an antique gold compared to the Hermes. Now the Ombre Fume, as I mentioned, these are exactly the same size as a blush. Here's the blush I'm wearing today, Rose Poivre, and you can see exactly the same packaging here. But this Ombre Fume really made me think of a cross between the Chanel Tissé Essentiel palette and the Clair Obscur. So let me go ahead and set these up. So to me, kind of hard to hold these, but it looked like it was kind of a mix of these colors. So we're going to go ahead and swatch these. Let's start off with Clair Obscur. And this is going to be an all matte palette. These are all like browns. So we're going to go ahead. Let's go vertically here with this. And you can see that these browns, you know, they're pigmented. They're easy to use. Really nice classic formula. But I do think that this Chanel formula is just a little nicer than the Hermes one, honestly, because there's less powder kick up and, you know, the longevity on there is better in my opinion. Then we have Tissé Essentiel, and this one is going to be, you know, light, like beigey shades. We've got a little bit cooler tones in this one though than in the Clair Obscur, which is primarily going to be all warm neutrals. And you can see here that we don't really have this black shade, but it does give us a kind of a similar color story. Again, there are no shimmers. This silver shimmer though is going to be, you know, something different. You can find silver shimmers in a lot of shadows, like the new Natasha Denona Xenon palette that's coming out, or, you know, many other palettes. So I feel like that's kind of, you know, not something unique. Now, when I was going through the Hermes descriptions of the palettes, they mentioned everything has a pop of color. This is the only one that really doesn't. This satin shade here is intended to be your pop, but it's supposed to be neutral, so making it a neutral palette. So just something to note there. All of the other palettes will have a pop of color. So I hope that was helpful. There is one last comparison I wanted to take a look at, and that is the new Byredo Self Illusion palette. So this is Self Illusion, and it's a really nice palette because we have a mix of cooler tones and warmer tones. So you can see we have kind of this blue gray, we have a steel gray, and this steel gray is a lighter version of it's kind of a cross of these, but it's a little bit deeper than this one here, similar in tone. And then we have a silvery shade here. And you can see it's not straight up silver. There is like a little bit of a greenish hue to that. We have kind of a soft golden shade, and then we have a brown. And I wanted to go ahead and put this brown kind of right next to the satin brown. This is going to be a little bit richer, but it's also a little bit more red. But we do have kind of a similar finish on those. So I hope that was helpful. Overall, I have to say the eyeshadow quads, they're nice, they're okay. There's nothing like great about them. They're not terrible quality, but they're also not great quality in my opinion. And so I do find them to be overpriced and really lacking in the amount of product as well. There's a lot of wasted space here. So I just feel like the design wasn't fully well thought out. Again, as I mentioned, the mascara I think is a nice mascara. No issues so far with it. Really enjoying having the colors. And the brushes, my favorites would be the shader and the liner brush. So I hope this was helpful. I'd love to know your thoughts if you tried any of these, and if you have any plans to try any of these in the future. My next choice for the palettes was actually going to be the one it's like I think it was like warm browns, a gold, and a burgundy shade. I thought it looked really pretty. So I think, though, after trying these, I'm going to pass on those. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful day.